Hello and welcome to another edition of Your Money, Your Life, our show devoted to all things financial wellness. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr., Senior Vice President, Executive Editor at Large at Black Enterprise. Listen, every year, sometimes twice a year, we have a new wave of professionals or aspiring professionals leaving colleges and grad school programs across America to make their way into careers in corporate America. And you would think there are a lot of resources available for this group, but the truth is, other than what they might have gotten in their career resource office on campus, often people are starting their careers and they're just trying to figure it out. They're trying to find their way. Today's guest has really been thinking about that audience, as she's been an accomplished and veteran corporate executive, and she's written a book that really addresses the needs of this audience. Please welcome to the show author, veteran corporate executive, Bevelle-Orange. Thanks, Cheryl, for joining the show.
Thank you, Alfred. I appreciate it. And I appreciate, again, you and Black Enterprise for having me today to talk about this subject.
Yeah, I want to jump into the book, but before we talk about your book and talk about just the financial considerations that early careers should be thinking about, tell our audience about your journey. You built a sterling career with Fortune 500 companies, but talk about your start, kind of what maybe you missed along the way that you really want to provide to young professionals now, and what you do today.
Well, I started, I am from a small rural town in Alabama. And so I didn't have very many role models to help me to get from point A to point B. My mother was a school teacher, my dad was a coal miner. And so they, made a living, but it was not in the corporate setting. So when I graduated and I started into corporate America, I started out at AFES, which is Army Air Force Exchange Service. Then I went on to PepsiCo and then on to Fedex. But I didn't have resources I needed to help me to be successful. So I had a lot of bumps and bruises. I had missed opportunities, missed networking opportunities, so many different things that I missed until one day I had an aha moment that says, ding, 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 you need to be doing something different than what you're doing if you want to move up in corporate America. And I began to have children at that time. So I kind of started out writing down things that I thought my children should know from your mother, if you will, if you decide to go into corporate America. But as I climbed the corporate ladder, I started thinking and mentoring others. I started finding that the from your mother became from your mentor. And so I started writing at a different level at that point. And as I continued to grow and mentor, then the book became, first generation corporate Americans. Here are the ins and outs and strategies that you need to know. And then over the pandemic, I started thinking from a leadership perspective. Leaders, if you are leading first generation corporate Americans, think about these different aspects as you're guiding and mentoring them. So it is an evolving book, and I am really excited to share it with the world because, as you said, so many people don't know the basics, and we need to get them to know the basics so that they can soar in their careers.
Our stories are so similar, Cheryl. I was born and raised in a small town on the shore of central New Jersey, Long Branch, New Jersey. My Long Branch people know me. I'm a very, very proud son of Long Branch. I was raised in a working poor household in a working class community. My mother was very hardworking, divorced single mother. I'm the oldest of four. Academically, very successful from a very early age. So it wasn't about the in-school training, but as I graduated from college and got out into the professional world, there's so many things that my mother couldn't teach me. My mother didn't know. The people in my family, they didn't come from these professional corporate environments. They were mostly nurses and a lot of military people in my family. So I tell people all the time, often, and especially true with Black people, our parents are working very hard to send our children into worlds and territories that they can't really tell you anything about. They're proud of you. They're proud, I'm sure, they're proud of you when oh, she works at PepsiCo, or she's an executive at FedEx. And, my family, was over the moon when I became at the time editor in chief of Black Enterprise. But after the name and the title, they really don't know what I did for a
Right.
living. And so I just think that, and because of that, like you, I have a passion for mentorship. I thought of all of those things that I found out the hard way when I was in my early career, and I was like, I'm gonna make sure my friends don't step into that hole or don't fall into that ditch. And it turned into a love of mentorship that I still, practice today, because somebody has to tell you so you don't have to find out the hard way. And too often, finding out the way means careers that never really take root or bloom at all. Some of us survive the mistakes. Others just say, "Well, this is not for me," and I'm out. And we lose a lot of potential and talent that way. So I
Exactly.
got a copy of your book. I don't always have it on the show, but I've read her book, "The Courage to Continue: Navigating Your Corporate Journey," and it really is a great book. I'm recommending it officially. If you have, young people in college or just out of college, or even if they didn't go to college, but they're out trying to,
Right.
build a world of work for themselves. Great book. I'm going to show it one more time. The Courage to Continue as a great handbook to get them started with some of the basics. And for me, some of the basics was like, what do you wear when you go to
Hmm.
a corporate event? And I remember the first time I had to represent the newspaper I was the editor of at a formal dinner. Fortunately, I had somebody that helped me navigate, but it does things for your confidence when you know what to do versus what you don't know
Right.
what to do. So talk to me
Hmm.
about what the impetus for the book and what your intention is for those who read it.
Well, my intention, and you can see as you read the book, it is a workbook as well as sharing information. So I don't want to just give you information. I want you to reflect on it. I want you to, think about, the words that are on the page, not just reading. I need you to digest it. For example, one of the sections I talk about, mentors and sponsors. And I say, okay, who I explain to you who those people are and what they are supposed to be doing for you. But I also give you time to jot down who are your mentors. Think about who are the people in your life, whether they're in your corporate environment or elsewhere. Who are your mentors? And then when I talk about sponsors, I have you think about who are the people that could be sponsoring you, that you would like to sponsor you? Who are the people that have the power to help you get to where you want to go? And entering into corporate America, we're so excited to be there as first generations. We're not thinking about that at all. And, you will talk about you talked about tying it to your financials. Your career plan and your financial plan actually go hand in hand. And
Mm.
that's another thing that we're not thinking about because we're so happy to be there. So, it's just really I just want to pay it forward. I want to help others to, as you said, when they get there, to soar, not just be happy to be there, not just for our parents to say, this is fantastic. We want you to take it to the next level. And that's what the book is really about. Helping people, families to take their generation to the next level.
I'm going to give my two big pieces of financial decisions or choices that I had wished I had taken seriously when I was, a freshly minted professional. I mean, they don't have to be the ones that you shared in the course of our conversation, but it's the ones that I consistently, when I talk to my mentees, when I talk to my kids, who are all grown and pursuing their careers, and I always say, if I had to do it over again, if I would do these two things. One is, and I've shared it on this show before, but I didn't do it. But I tell people to do it. I say bank your raises. Again, you just happen to have a job. You're not even thinking down the road. And I always tell people, if I think about, if I had, and when I say bank your raises for the audience who hasn't heard me talk about this before, like let's say I come in and I'm starting out with a great salary at a corporation, and I'm getting, let's say for the sake of argument, I'm getting $80,000 a year. Great. All right, wonderful. And I do well. I'm doing well. And then next year they say, "Oh, you're doing well. We're going to bump you up to 85." Don't spend the extra five. I was telling you, if you were living on 80 and you were good, try to hold off for at least a year. Bank it, just bank it, because you
Yeah,
know you can live on 80 because you were living on 80.
right.
And the person that gave me this advice, again, I wish I listened to them, because if I think of all the times that money could have accumulated just the interest on that money, and you're only delaying gratification. It's not like you're never going to spend it. You're going to, sooner or later, your lifestyle is going to go to that 85, because that's what happens. Our lifestyle tends to grow. But I would tell young people, I say, you're going to get raises, you're going to get bonuses. Try to resist the urge to spend it right away. Try to find ways to make it work for you. The other one, which is still relevant today, is I was fortunate early in my career because of my time joining Black Enterprise about 4 years out of college. It was one of the early opportunities to invest in a 401k. And I
Hmm.
constantly talk to young people that think, "Oh, I can wait. I can wait to do that." And I'm like, "No, first of all, it's free money if your company is
Yep,
matching. Secondly, it's tax deferred, which means you don't have to pay taxes on it until later.
right.
Or if you get a Roth, you don't have to pay for. You can pay the taxes now and not pay later. But third, the earlier you start, the more will be waiting for you later. And then when you're in your 20s or you're first out of college, you're not thinking about needing retirement money down the road. But I don't know. I just think those two things are things that I think in the long run, people regret when they don't do it.
I
Um,
agree.
so let me get out of the way. That's my 2 cents. What are some of the things, considerations that you really, whether it's through the book or just in your mentorship of young people and your mentees and others, that you think are some of the financial considerations they need to take into consideration as they're starting and building their careers?
Well, I will just start with, my dad, when I started out, he was like, Cheryl, just save $10 a week. $10 a week. And by the end of the year, you will have, X amount of dollars. And so in my mind, I started with that $10 a week. So I'll tell you a quick story. I got into corporate America, 401k. So I'm like, okay, I could put my $10 a week there.
Mhm.
But you can't do $10 a week. You have to do,
Right,
what the minimum. But
right.
that's where I was started. That's where my mind went with 401k. But as you said, don't leave money on the table there. If your company is matching, put that 3% in or whatever it is and let them give their 6% or whatever it is, but don't leave money on the table. You will be surprised how that money grows in a short period of time. And it's money that you can set aside and you don't even have to, look at it from time to time. But make sure you do that. But that's where I went with my $10 a week. But the other thing I would say is when you're doing your career plan, you know, regardless of where you are, look at it in tandem with your financial goals
Mhm.
and create, when, as you said, when you get promoted, you take that extra and you put it in your financial plan. You won't miss it because you didn't have it. And again, you can take a little bit out, but put most of it in your financial plan. And as you grow in your company or even as an entrepreneur, as you grow, make sure that your financial plan matches with your career plan. So as you grow, you get more money, increase your financial investment. Um, sometimes we think we can't live off of X amount of dollars, but I'm sure if we put effort and budget, we can, because on the other end, we're going to be able to live large, if you will. If we do it right when we're younger, we can live large when it's time for us to, be in that mature stage and grow and do our thing, if you will. So,
Saving and investing, I tell people, young people, is about having options both now and later.
about having
So
options.
let's take the advice you've already given. You're putting the max you can put in, at least to get the match from your company if they have it, in the 401k. You think you can't do it, but you can because again, if you didn't have it before,
Right.
then you're just saying, okay, this new thing, I'm going to put it here. But the thing is, especially for young people today, our parents and their parents could rely on pensions and Social Security down the road. Now
Mhm.
there's a real danger that there may not be Social Security. I mean, we don't
Right.
know what government is going to do, but right now they're talking about we're going to run out of money in X year. And if you're in your 20s and or your early 30s now, you're the one that's going to be left holding the bag when all that money's gone. But if you've been putting money aside anyway in your 401k, then you know you got something for you down the road. But I agree with you, and more importantly, with other things you might want to do when you're putting money aside constantly, and you decide, you know what, I want to start this business. You already have some money you've been putting aside all along that you didn't know you were going to use it for. If there's an emergency, if again, we talk about having the 6 to 9 months emergency fund.
Or if
Again,
you
if
wanna
you're
buy a house.
yes, or you want to buy a house. If you could just get used to, I know again, spending. I tell my kids, spend 80% of what you make.
Mhm.
And I'm a man of faith, so I say, tithe your 10% and bank and invest the other 10%. Trust me, you will thank me later because
Yeah.
it creates options for you down the road. You may decide you want to get off the career track,
Mhm.
and do something else. You want to know you have money to live on until you can figure out what you want to do.
Right. And another thing, Alfred, that people may not necessarily take advantage of when they're in corporate America, a
Mhm.
lot of companies have tuition assistance
Yes.
programs. And so that's money that you're leaving on the table as well, because you can be going and getting. So when you tie your career plan with your individual development plan with your financial plan, all of it works together. So your career plan says you need education in X, Y, and Z. You can go and find a course and take advantage of that tuition assistance to
Mhm.
help you get the information, the knowledge you need to help you get to the next step in your career. And that takes or gives more money in your financial plan that you don't have to use now to get that knowledge. So you have to look at them collectively and make them all work together for your benefit so that you can excel to the place where you want to, using your company's money.
Yeah,
So,
and you make a great point. You're getting money on two sides, really. You're
mhm,
taking the money that your company is offering you to get that certificate, certification, additional degree. But obviously, on the other end is when you get that additional certification, education degree, then that gives you more command for a higher salary in the marketplace.
mhm,
So you really got your company investing in you. So down the road, you can actually make more money, which again can be invested towards your career goals, your financial goals, and your life goals. So
right,
I just love the way you make the connection. It's not just career planning and financial planning and life planning that if you're thinking about it holistically, all of those things will feed each other. And I love
right,
how with your focus. Let me put it this way: a lot of us come to these conclusions, but by the time we figure this part out, we're in our early 30s. We got families, we got kids. But if you could start this, you know, 18,
early.
20, 21,
Mhm.
by the time you build up some momentum by the time you get into your middle career, and then you really have options.
Yes, yes. And that's that helping the next generation get a little higher or
Mm.
soar a little more, because if you're there, you're ready. You're taking off. You're ready to go. And so you don't have to wait to your 30s and 40s to get all this information. You have it in your 20s, you can use it so that in your 30s you're rocking and rolling.
What are some of the mindset adjustments that you share with the young professionals that you influence, as a mentor, as a leader, as an example, that helps them to get their minds around this? What are the ways of thinking? I know a big one for me is I talk about delayed gratification. I said is your ability to delay gratification, and I use an example. If you really want that new pair of shoes, it's the difference between borrowing money to get it, meaning using a credit card, and then paying interest, to pay, paying for the shoes, but you're also paying for the money you borrow, or saying, that monthly credit card payment. If I just save it for 10 months, I can just buy the shoes outright
Just
and
about.
be perfectly happy. And the only difference is, can you wait? So delayed gratification is one of the big mindset things that I talk to people about, not just young people, but in general, that if you really want to be successful financially, your ability to delay gratification is key. What are some of the other, mindsets that you talk about in your book, or in terms of your mentorship of others, to get them ready to do better?
So, one of the things I always start with is knowing yourself,
Mm,
knowing what you like, what you don't like, what drives you, where you're trying to go. What is it that you think you're going to need in the next couple of years, 10 years, 5 years, 10 years. And so, what I want them to start with when I say know yourself is to really do a deep dive and understand, who you are at the time because we change over time. So, know who you are right now and understand you. When you do that, then you can change your mindset on certain things that you may think you have an opinion on, but as you deep dive and understand and learn, you may change your mind. And so, one of the things that I find is we have too small goals. They are too small. And they are small because our mindset, one, we might not know ourselves, and our mindsets is set for all I need to do is get this corporate job. That's it. That's the goal. That's utopia. But we need to think bigger. I would change people's mindsets or tell them, think bigger. Give me your wildest dream. And then let's figure out how we can help you get there. But think bigger. The other thing I would say is dealing with adversity. We there are so many lemons that we're going to get throughout this life. We need to quickly learn how to make some lemonade and move forward. We need to figure out or change our mindset to think from this is a negative that's coming, I got to shut down, to this is a negative, but how can I change it? How can I make it work for me? How can I make it look differently? And so those are, two big things that I think are helpful to the folks that I mentor because they can see I can be more than just this person sitting at my desk in corporate America. Let me think. I have a master's in finance. I can go be a CFO somewhere. You know, Let me think a little bit bigger than what, I can see. And again, the other thing is, taking obstacles and turning them into opportunities. Those
You
are
know,
some
you-
key things.
your point about thinking bigger, and based on, again, what you told me about your background and mine, and I often look back and I remind myself that the person that I am today, that the person I was when I got out of high school or got out of college, I couldn't have imagined.
Couldn't have
And
imagined.
so I spend a lot of time, to your point of thinking bigger, with my mentees. I do a lot of visualization. I was like you said, suppose everything went right. What would your life look like? What would you believe? To your point about changing your thinking and beliefs, what would you do with your money differently than what you did might have been doing based on your upbringing? And that just opens up so many possibilities, and it prepares you for change, and it prepares you for adversity. And I, every time I made a leap forward in my career, especially, those first, say, 15 years, it was because I got put into a position where I had to either stretch or shrink.
Hmm.
And stretching meant doing something I'd never done before, going places I'd never been before, meeting people I'd never met before, and the little kid from small town in New Jersey evolved to the new space that he found
Right.
himself in. And that takes courage, and that takes faith, but it also takes, like you said, thinking bigger, setting bigger goals, because it does result in the kind of growth that allows you to move to the next level. And I'm sure as a young woman from Alabama, that was, again, people don't think of, they think of big corporate executives like you as coming from Chicago or New York, and that the path that we both went to get to where we are is not the stereotypical path that people think of.
Right.
But I'm sure that when you look back on, little Cheryl when she started, it's very, very different than who you are now. And I guess that's an important lesson for the readers of this book and others who are in their early career.
Absolutely. And I would add that, in order to do what we have done, we have to be flexible and adaptable. We have to sometimes go with the flow. We have to can't we need a plan, but you also have to be able to flex. You have to be able to again take the opportunity or the issue and flex it. Sometimes we're going in a direction, and God will say, I need you to go in another direction. And so we have to be flexible enough to say, you know what, I'm rolling with it. It's gonna get me almost to where I'm going, where I think I want to go, but where you end up is probably a better place than where you thought you wanted to go anyway.
Oh,
But
absolutely,
we
absolutely.
have to be adaptable and flexible as well. I think that is something that um, young people really need to think about and understand how they incorporate that into who they are.
Yeah, let me pose another question for you as we come down the home stretch of our conversation. You said earlier, and I totally agree, it's important for you to constantly be focused on understanding who you are, even as that changes over time. But you gotta be anchored in a set of values and beliefs about who you are. For me, it's also important to navigate some of the moral crises and the integrity decisions you're going to have to make along the way. So you do have to be like, no, I understand who I am. On the other hand, you can't be so rigid about who you are that when opportunities come up or adversity comes up that challenges that to your point, you can't be flexible and adaptable without sacrificing the integrity of who you are. And I find for young professionals in particular, it's a challenge for all of us in our careers. But for young professionals in particular, they can be frozen because they're like, well, this is what I believe, but this is what the circumstances are offering, and how do I be flexible but still remain true to who I am?
Mhm.
What is the advice that you give to young people, young careerists, when they are trying to figure out that dilemma, that balancing act?
Well, I actually had a young man who is kind of going through this right now, and we're kind of working through it. And what I tell him is, you can be your authentic self in the workplace. You can. And we want you to be that. But you also need to understand the culture that you're in.
Mm.
And, if you're sitting listening to rap music in your headphones, okay, at your desk, well, that if nobody can hear it, that's your thing. But you can't just blast it all on the floor. That's not the culture. So you can be your authentic self in the workplace, but understand your culture. Understand where you are. You mentioned, you went to dinner to do some networking and you didn't know what to wear. Okay, you can be your authentic self in a suit.
Yes.
You can be your authentic self, but again, the culture might not embrace some of the things that we are used to from a culture perspective, and we just have to know the limits. We have to understand what is happening and adjust and be flexible, but still be yourself. It is possible. You don't have to, sell out, as my young man said. I don't want to sell out. You're not selling out. You are just adapting because guess what? We need you to have a seat at the table. And we need you to be able to influence and bring value and help move our needle. And if you don't have a seat at the table because you are not doing what we need done, then you are not helping the cause. We need you to pay it forward by taking your seat at the table.
It,
So that is how
I
I.
tell young people, you got to become, not just young people, people in general, leaders become part of the culture,
Yeah.
before they can change the culture.
Before they
We
can
know as
change.
Black professionals or Black executives, often we have to get in there to be able to change things for the better for those that come behind us. But
That's
you're
right.
right, that means adapting to the existing culture before we can improve the culture and change the culture. So that's so valuable.
Mhm.
Cheryl, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I don't know if there's some final thoughts you want to leave with our audience, whether it's related to their financial thinking or their career in general. And also, I want to make sure people know where to find you, where they can follow up and get more wisdom, where they can get the book. So, in that order, what are some final thoughts you want to share with the Your Money, Your Life audience, and where can they get more of what you have to offer?
Well, I would just again thank you, Alfred, for having me. For young people, I would just say, you know what? I am so proud of you and all the things that you are doing to even be in the space that we're talking about in corporate America. I will say, get my book, of course, and, tower through it, think about it, understand it. And if you have questions, you can reach out to me. My website is CherylBOrange.com, and you can get the book. You can connect with me. You can find all my social media there. But final words, I would say, know yourself, create your roadmap, trust in God, and soar as we know you can. Because you are here in a space that some people will never get to. And we need you to do your part. We need you to pay it forward for that next generation that's coming.
Cheryl, I couldn't put it better. I almost don't want to say anything else because I don't want to mess up the tone that you set. Uh, I really appreciate you coming on again. The book is The Courage to Continue Navigating Your Corporate Journey. You want to pick that up, if not for yourself, for someone that you know. And Cheryl, we definitely got to have you back on the show at some point, and just keep us abreast of everything that you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'd love to come.
Great. Okay, that was it. Another great edition of Your Money, Your Life. I'm your host, Alfred Edmond Jr., Senior Vice President and Executive Editor at Black Enterprise. We'll see you next time.